We've got about a minute before we get started here, so do any last preps, coffee runs, bathroom runs, and then we will get started. Okay, so this morning we have our FedEx services team here with us to talk a little bit about D2C environment. We have Scott Lombardo and Chris Bechtold here, as well as me, Jessica Blauer, doing a little Q&A for them. They will be speaking, and some things before we officially get started. If you have questions, we ask that you use the box on your icon. It says questions. You can enter them there, but we will be answering them at the end of the presentation. We'll answer as many as we can, and if there's any follow-up, Scott or myself are happy to follow up with you later. So we'll get started. Scott, welcome. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Jessica. This is truly an honor to be invited to present our information with regard to the D2C environment today. To get started, we're going to be opening and going through this slideshow. So shipping in an ever-changing D2C environment. First, for the legal stuff. This webinar, please understand that it does not constitute any legal advice, and it only reflects FedEx Express and FedEx Ground policies regarding where it will transport wine shipments on behalf of retail and winery customers. Shippers may need a license or permit to ship into certain states. Please consult an attorney for information on wine shipping laws in each state. The information that we're providing you is a general overview and understanding of how it affects the common carrier. So understand, again, this is not legal advice, but it is valuable advice and information that we're obtaining from reliable and accurate sources. So a little bit about what we're going to be covering today: shipping compliance, domestic and international. We'll be discussing what is changing in the new year and why. Why should I do this, and where are the most common shipping states for Oregon wines? How do I create an account to ship D2C? What resources are available to me to promote and remain compliant? Why should I look at international shipping? Are the requirements different, documents, duties, and taxes, etc., for international shipping? And what resources are available to me as a winery or producer in order to understand those pieces best? So the first thing we're going to discuss is Oregon and the state of Oregon. Oregon is having its heyday in shipping. In the direct-to-consumer avenue for the last year, Oregon has increased in volume over 31.2% annually year over year in the direct-to-consumer shipping environment. With that, the change in price has been increased to 2.8% with an average price per bottle of $39.16. This is amazing. The D2C environment is ever growing, continue to growing like crazy. This is information that was provided from a report from Ship Compliance. So great information. The report is available on Ship Compliance website in detail and full, and this is just the Oregon section. So please do take a look at that, review it. Some amazing things, and this is why we're talking today. We're talking about direct-to-shipping or direct-to-consumer shipping because it is the environment in which you are able to get maximum profit for your product out directly to consumers. What are the states that are currently being used or shipped to most for Oregon wineries? Well, and actually wineries in general, but this rings true for Oregon wineries. Washington, Oregon, California, Colorado, Texas, Illinois, New York, Pennsylvania, Virginia, and Florida. Couple quick things about this. You see 30% of the shipping is going into California, occurring within California, As a side note, as an Oregon winery, the majority of your visitors are probably going to be the West Coast, so California and Washington. The permit for California is only $10. So if you are looking to become compliant and you are looking at proper compliance, being that they are one of our major shipping states, $10 to be compliant to that state is pretty easy. Florida has no permit requirements, so we'll talk about that here in a second. This is a map to your customers. So all of the states that we see here in blue are states that you have the capability of shipping to. They offer a permit or are non-permit states, meaning that you can ship there freely. If you have questions with regard to those permits and pieces, we'll get into that in a moment. But you see those there in maroon. The ones in maroon are states that are no-go states. So Utah, Oklahoma, Mississippi, Kentucky, Delaware, and Alabama. And I am going to state that there is a caveat with Alabama. You can ship to Alabama. Alabama is considered a licensee-to-licensee move. So you will actually address your packages to Alabama to an ABC store, an alcohol store, care of the recipient, and they pick them up there. But as far as directly to their homes, that is why it is in maroon. A couple terms to understand, and where this falls important is when you access later on some of our mainline resources that are available to you, they're going to discuss what is the difference between an on-site shipment and an off-site shipment. So these are key factors to keep in mind when you are looking at some of your resources. So an on-site shipment is any shipment made for a customer that places an order on premise of the winery. That also includes any premise that the winery is attending. So if you go to a trade show or you're selling product at like the First Taste or the upcoming Portland Seafood and Wine Festival, that would be considered an on-premise sale of the wine, and you do have the capability of holding it and shipping it on their behalf for that purpose. An off-site shipment is a shipment made for a customer who places an order via phone, fax, or your internet website. So let's talk about some new changes for the upcoming year with regard to shipping as a common carrier. So FedEx and UPS both, with increased scrutiny from state alcohol commissions and boards, common carriers have been placed in a position to verify compliance for certain states. Now what that essentially means is, as a new winery shipping with FedEx, and if you've not opened an account with FedEx or with UPS for that matter, FedEx is requiring that in order for you to ship to certain states, that we have a scanned copy of your permit for that state. Now, what has this done for FedEx is it's caused us to enhance our technology considerably. So now our shipping software, our ship manager software program, has the capability to turn on and turn off individual states for the wineries. This is extremely convenient because rather than shutting you off completely, you have the ability to ship to, for instance, Florida, that is a non-permit state. And if we do not have a copy of your California permit, we have the ability of shutting off California until we receive that permit. So it still gives you access and the capability to ship to those states that are not being dedicated to finding out all of the details in regard to shipping. So with that said, what are we looking at here? So these states that you see here, California, Colorado, Idaho, Indiana, Iowa, Maine, Maryland, Missouri, New Hampshire, New Mexico, New York, North Dakota, Oregon, South Carolina, Vermont, Virginia, and West Virginia. As a winery, in order to ship into those states, FedEx will need a copy of your permit. Those of you who are currently accounts with FedEx and have already gone through the approval process, over the course of this year, FedEx Legal will be reaching out to you via letter and advising you that you will need to provide us with those permits, and they'll give you ample time to go ahead and submit those permits to us before we do any shutoffs or anything like that. So don't be frightened, and I will be happy to work with you through that process, obviously, as your FedEx rep. Now, with regard to retailers in the direct-to-consumer environment, the same rules are applying. And the states that we are requiring, of course, to grab, again, are New Hampshire, North Dakota, Oregon, Virginia, and West Virginia. The reason why there's less states for retailers is because, well, there's less states that retailers can just ship to. So some of those states that you see in the winery section, retailers can't even ship product to, so it's a non-concern. And again, this is all stemming from the state's ability to now obtain better reporting and are requesting reporting from the common carriers to determine that that information is being provided to them. And we're required to maintain that level of compliance now by those states. So what is required to ship wine direct to consumer? You're a brand new winery, you just opened a tasting room, or maybe you haven't opened a tasting room. Maybe you're just doing web sales at this time and hope soon to be able to do that. And you're stretching your legs and want to be able to get product out to friends, family, and other people that are interested in the wine that you're producing. So to start with, we go through an account creation process. My name and contact information is on the OWA website as the point of contact with regard to shipping. And so please reach out to me. I will be happy to get you started on the right path. But just as a heads up as to what the process is. First step is to open an account with FedEx via 1-800-GO-FedEx. Tell them that you're a small business and that you would like to open a small business account and that you're working with a FedEx rep and that they don't need to apply any pricing to your account. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to discuss the packaging requirements and labeling requirements. Packaging requirements from what kind of inserts you're using and what kind of boxes you're using. And I will also advise you at that point on what are the labeling requirements for doing that kind of a shipment, making sure that our alcohol stickers are properly placed so that we're aware of what we're picking up and can report it appropriately. You'll need to email me scans of your OLCC and Federal TTB basic permit, which I send off to FedEx Legal. FedEx Legal will generate an alcohol agreement, which you will obtain from me, and you will sign that and scan it back to me. I will sign it stating that it's been received and we've gone over that information and you've reviewed it, and then we send it to legal. Usually within 3 days of this whole process starting, you're actually a legal winery to ship. The next step, of course, is OWA's pricing program. Those of you who are members of the OWA program, I send you an email upon the time that you're legally able to ship. We have you fill out that form, and within 24 hours, those rates are automatically loaded to your account and you're ready to go. So we're going to quickly go over some resources for helping in maintaining compliance. And these are websites that are available to you. They're not membership-based websites in the sense that the data that's on here you can pretty much freely get. First one I have up there is FedEx.com wine shipping, and what that is our wine shipping rules. The next set is our state pairing guide, and what that allows you to do, actually both of these are state pairing, one for retailer and one for wineries. You'll be able to do a drop down, choose the state that you're shipping to, and from that state, it'll tell you the on-site, off-site permit process, and if you can or cannot ship there. It'll also outline for you, at least within FedEx, if there's a limitation as to the amount of product you can ship and those kind of things. The next set are state-based support organizations that offer detail. So, of course, OregonWine.org is a wonderful organization, as you're all aware, to gain information, and they have new toolboxes and toolkits available for you. The Oregon Wine Growers Association just rolled out their toolbox with a lot of great, wonderful information that allows you in-state to find information. And finally, the WineInstitute.org has a lovely website that provides a lot of detailed information with regard to state shipping laws, and they do update it quite regularly with regard to changes that are occurring in the marketplace. Advocacy groups, there is freethegrapes.org for wineries, and the NAWR, which is the National Association of Wine Retailers, and they are an advocacy group for expanding direct sales and compliance for retail organizations. And then finally, a couple of compliance software organizations, ShipCompliant, which we're probably all familiar with. They're pretty much a leader in the compliance industry right now. but there's also an organization called CSAcompliance.com that provides an opportunity for you to review and look at their options also. So before we move on to international pricing, I do want to, of course, bring up the Oregon Wine Growers Association Preferred Pricing Program. Now, FedEx and OWA have been partners now for almost 4 years with regard to this pricing program. And it has grown and expanded every year. This last year, we expanded that international services component, which Chris will get into, up to a 65% discount for us, our wineries. This program provides us a great deal of opportunity because it extends the best pricing program to you that is available as a member for non-volume-based shipping. So it doesn't matter if you're shipping just 1 box a year, 10 boxes a year, up to $30,000, $40,000 annualized spending in a year. This program holds true to you and is effective with regard to that, with no minimums required in order to obtain these rates. This includes, of course, specific pieces in regard to ground shipping that is unique to FedEx, from specific day appointment settings. We have an expansive hold at location option, which is a piece that we've rolled out and we're continuing to roll out and expand, which we will now allow shipping to Walgreens locations. So your customers, if they're not home and available, have the capability of rerouting a shipment to those Walgreens locations and expand that. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and transfer and introduce you to Chris Bechtold, who's going to now discuss with you international shipping.
Good morning, everybody. I'm the dedicated rep for the Oregon wines for FedEx, and I'm going to go over some of the international documentation and things you might want to be aware of when doing direct-to-consumer internationally. I'll try not to go too deep in the weeds. We have resources available, so just be aware of that, and I'm a resource, so if you have questions, please reach out to me. So why look international? Well, with the world being more globally connected, 95% of the world's consumers are outside the U.S. That's a big market for you to look at, especially with your online websites. I know on the West Coast, we get a lot of tourists coming along to California, Washington, Oregon for wineries. And you'll see that top markets we're seeing out of the region, a lot of Asia, because we're seeing a lot of Asian markets. China in particular is a big market right now that everybody's trying to look at. And just to let you know, they did make some changes for direct-to-consumer in December that is reducing the duties from 60% to 21% for a certain clearance process. There's a certain process you have to go through. So anybody interested in that, please reach out and I can update you on what that new process is for China. And in Europe, we're seeing Germany, UK, obviously, as 2 of the top markets. Just like domestic, the requirement to be a shipper with us is we have to have your state license and federal license on file. So Scott gets that set up when he does the domestic setup for you guys, so that should already be in process. And for recipients, the big thing is most countries will accept to licensees. It's whether they'll accept direct to consumer. And we do have a list on FedEx.com. It's called our International Wine Shipping Guide. It goes over about 35 countries, and it'll tell you which countries will allow you to ship to consumer. But that is not a complete list. So as you have interest, please reach out to Scott and I, and we can get you information on whether you can ship to consumer. I know a lot of tasting rooms get people coming in and they'll ask and call me and say, hey, can we ship to Denmark? Or can we ship to Norway or Sweden? So I see a lot of that as well. So just be aware you can reach out to us and we'll help you update whether you can ship direct to consumer in those countries. Now we're going to go over some of the documentation that's required. So when you do ship, you're required to have a commercial invoice with the shipment. And this basically tells customers what you're shipping. So it tells you how much they're shipping, where it's coming from, the producer, obviously the vintage, what type of wine it is. And this is all important because it determines what they're going to charge for duties and taxes. And I'll go over that here in just a little bit. So be aware that you do have to do a commercial invoice. It's a required document. And that's something that our system, when you put all the information in, produces automatically for you. So you don't have to produce a separate one. You can actually produce it in our ship system, and we can show you and train you how to do that. So One of the things on the bottom here it talks about is the harmonized tariff or Schedule B, and I'm going to go over that. That's something you need to wear because that's also something that customs is required for duties and taxes. Other documents that wineries may see by country are listed here. I'm not going to go over each one of them. It depends on the country, and some of this is not a requirement of the shipper. It's actually a requirement of the recipient on that end. So just be aware that sometimes you may be complying with everything to ship it, but the importer on the other side has other requirements as well. The harmonized code, as I mentioned, that is something that customs requires. And what that is that's a code that identifies to customs what the product is and what duty amount they're going to charge. So it's a 10-digit code. 200 countries in the world use this system. The first 6 digits are universal. The last 4 are country specific. In the U.S., for export, we call it a Schedule B, and import, they call it the HTS, which is the Harmonized Tariff Schedule. You also hear it as HS code, but be aware that is a code that is required on your documentations for shipping. If you do not select the code yourself, customs will assign the code that they feel best fits, and usually that is a higher duty rate. So just be aware of that. And Schedule B, if you type that into Google, you'll come up with the website down below, the census.gov, and you can search in your site and get the information. Duties and taxes. Again, this is very important when you're shipping direct to consumer, partly because some countries can have up to 100% duty on wine. So oftentimes you may be getting somebody on your website or into your tasting room that wants to buy wine and ship it, and you get everything settled and you charge, and then it gets over there, and you know, a $30 bottle of wine is now $60 because the duty is $30 as well. Then you paid shipping on top of it. So, and what happens is that some customers will just then refuse the shipment, and then you get shipped back to you, and then you're paying for that return as well. And obviously you want to be accounting for that ahead of time. So do you want to collect it up front, or do you just want to bill recipient and make sure your recipients know that, hey, they're responsible for any duties and taxes in their country? So just be aware of that. Duties and taxes are very important, and it's one of the top things we see for direct-to-consumer where stuff gets rejected because people aren't aware that there's a high duty amount, especially on wine. Some countries consider wine a luxury item. That's another reason why you'll get a luxury tax sometimes on top of it as well. So, and something else to be aware of is VAT tax. And so on the right-hand side here, you'll see that the VAT tax in Europe can be 20%. So on top of duty, you could have 100% duty, and then you're going to have a VAT tax that could be 20% as well. When you're shipping direct to licensee, many of those licensees can apply to get that VAT tax back. But when you're selling direct to consumer, you have to charge that, or they have to be charged when we do the clearance and then charge them before delivery. So it's just another cost that you need to be aware of when you're shipping internationally that your customers may incur when the wine comes to the country and they do through the clearance process. And this just shows you how duties and taxes are calculated. So duty, they take the value of the goods. Many countries also take the shipping charges and then times it by the duty rate and then get you the duty. And it's all based on the value of the product. So the VAT is also charged taking the value of the goods, the shipping charges plus the duty they've already charged you. All right, then you get that total value that comes about a duty rate, the VAT rate, and then you have to pay the VAT. So just be aware that there are those additional fees when you're shipping international. So take that into consideration when you're marketing your product overseas. And again, I'm trying to go through this kind of high level quickly, so I'm not digging too deep, so please let me know you have questions. We have resources available to help you with documentation, to give you an idea what the duties and taxes are. So please don't feel overwhelmed or anything. Any questions, just reach out and we can walk you through the process and help you get prepared. Okay? Something else just to be aware of, for direct-to-consumer, you're probably not going to have to worry about this as much, but if you ship to a licensee and the value of the shipment is over $2,500 based on your harmonized code, then you do have to file an electronic filing to the government, and our ship system will automatically make you do that when you put in the value for the shipment. Just be aware of that. Some resources here for you. Our International Wine Shipping Guide, which you can just go to FedEx.com and and type in International Wine Shipping Guide and pull that up. And that'll go through countries and whether you can ship to licensees or to consumers. Global Trade Manager, this is our tool that you can go on and get estimated duties and taxes. You go on there. You can also look at country documentations, or if you want to get a sample commercial invoice, you can get forms on there as well. But most people use it to look at the duties and taxes and estimate. So you can put in the value, where it's going, what country, and then it'll estimate what the duties and taxes are to your consumer on that side. The TTB also has some great resources. You go to their International Import and Export Requirements section. They have countries, and you can get a lot of information on what other countries are requiring of shipments coming in of wine. And then the census.gov is where you get your Schedule B number, the 10-digit duty code for your wines that duty is going to be assessed on. So I know I kind of went through that pretty quickly. I just wanted to make sure I want a high level, just so you're aware of, you know, needing some commercial invoices, being aware that the importer may also have to get some documentation, not just you. You can be compliant and providing everything, but then the importer needs something. And being aware that duties and taxes is a big key, that consumers, you know, when they receive the wine, that they're not aware of that duty and tax on the wine, that could affect them rejecting the shipment when it gets received. So just be aware of that. So any questions as you get interest or you get people asking you about shipping to their countries, please reach out to us and we're happy to help you. So,
we're going to open it up now to answering questions, but I think the key factor that both Chris and I want to share with regard to this, domestically or internationally, there are going to be situations that you're going to come across from a compliance perspective. Please reach out to us. Don't just say no. You have an opportunity to learn, get additional information. With the international market, you have the ability to open that up. It sounds complicated. It's not terribly complicated. We have customers who do it the first time and go, oh, that wasn't as bad as I thought it was, and be able to get that product and open up those new markets. Domestically, we are here as resources to be able to offer answers to questions that you have, enrollment, the whole process. So please don't hesitate to reach out to us. And now I'm going to hand it back over to Jessica so that she can provide us some questions that you're having, and we can answer those for you.
Hello. I will be going through some of these questions. Some of them will be some review from the slides, and some of them will be questions that Scott or Chris will be able to answer. As they were saying, if we don't get to your question, please reach out to us. We're happy to talk over this offline. This webinar was recorded. There are slides. We will be posting this on the reference toolbox. So those that are members, please remember you can log in and view this recording anytime that you would like. So we're going to get started with the questions. The first one is, what resources are available to assist in integrating our point-of-sale software with FedEx and Ship Compliance?
That's a great question. We actually have an entire technology team that can assist with that process. Ship Compliant itself has actually a plugin that is interactive with our Ship Manager software. Some wine softwares are fully compatible with FedEx. I'm going to bring up a couple. Active Club Solutions is one. OrderPort is fully integrated with FedEx. There are others that are integratable with FedEx, but from an export perspective, which is like a spreadsheet CSV file that you would then batch import into our software. So just reach out to me. We get you in touch with the right folks within our FedEx organization, and we are able to dial down specifically what it is that we need to do to support your needs.
Thank you. The next is the D2C license requirement for new FedEx winery customers only?
No. It is currently, if you're a new winery, something we're asking for up front, but FedEx Legal will be reaching out to existing customers over the course of this year and requesting those licenses. They will be providing ample opportunity and time for you to go ahead and provide those to us before there's going to be any shutdown of any states or anything like that. But it is something that those states are requiring us to become compliant in, and because they're pushing forward with that, we're needed to do the same.
How might we be able to obtain a route map or shipping courier map that shows how the wine physically travels from Oregon to other states across the country?
Reach out to me. I have actual route data that I can assist with regard to two of the programs, which are most likely the routes that you're in question about, which is ground shipping and also our temperature-controlled shipping option, which we refer to as cold chain sometimes. With regard to air shipping, obviously, depending upon the method that you choose, we can discuss individually as to how and potentially that is held and where.
What steps is FedEx taking to address the issue that arose in Michigan, where a winery was enforced against when age was not verified upon delivery of the common carrier?
Actually, FedEx is going through massive education with regard to the state of Michigan. There's different parts according to what occurred with regard to that. There are website requirements now that the state of Michigan is potentially requiring in order to make sure that the purchaser of the alcohol is 21 or older. There is also clarification that FedEx is currently requiring and requesting from the state of Michigan as to how they are enforcing that. And the reason why I say that in that way is because there is question as to the law that the recipient of the package has to be the actual person that purchased it and have the same ID, which doesn't necessarily work from a flexibility standpoint at all. So we are addressing those issues. The two specific issues that I'm aware of, I have brought FedEx Legal on board with, and my understanding is that we have not only re-educated many members of the staff there with regard to these requirements, but we're continuing to pursue education as these things change.
Before you move on, can I bolt one additional question onto that, please, Scott? Hi, this is Tom. I'm just adding one question. I'm really glad Michigan came up because it is a little bit unique in a couple of important ways. Would it be better or recommended for a customer wanting to ship into Michigan to use the Walgreens option to get around some of the squirreliness in Michigan, where the person signing for the product has to be the same person who ordered it? Is a Walgreens shipment a better way for a winery to not risk getting trapped if that same person isn't signing for what was ordered?
The answer to that is yes, in multiple reasons. One, we have a dedicated staff at those locations that are looking and making sure that the individual picking up the product is the person that shipped it, or is an authorized individual at that physical address to pick up that product. And that's not just Walgreens, that's all Hold It locations. There's a lot of wonderful pieces to the Hold It location piece from a winery perspective. Many times people's addresses change and things like that. Routing to a Hold It location allow for wine club members to be able to still get their product while not incurring costs to the winery, and allows us to redirect and provide options for that. So from a compliance standpoint, it does add an additional level of assistance, of course, you know, with regard to that. It's an ever-changing environment, and these states, as we know with Illinois and what they did a couple years ago to Michigan, just last year, Michigan required every single box that shipped in there to have the Michigan permit number listed on the label. So I think some states are just becoming extremely protective in what they're doing and how to do that.
I think you're right. I was just looking to see if the Walgreens or any of your Hold It options, and I'm not sure what they all are, maybe I missed it, if that is a way for the winery to minimize its risk in case the person taking the product at the door. So Hold It locations are a good tip. I would advise any winery listening in on this call, they'll be extremely cautious of single bottle orders from Michigan right now.
Thank you, Tom.
The next question we have kind of goes along with that. For international domestic shipping, is FedEx set up for keeping the wines within a safe temperature range?
Okay, so for a standard domestic shipment, we do not temperature control the product, okay? We do offer a program, temperature controlled shipping program. In fact, it's very unique in how we do it. that does maintain temperature fluidity. I mean, we could dive heavily into that, and I don't want to take up too much time as to what our temperature-controlled shipping is, but please reach out to me if you have questions. But long and short of it is do we have an option that is available for protection of product? Yes. It's currently a summer-based product only. Second thing is with regard to standard shipping procedures, it is not.
And for international, it's similar to our standards. There is no temperature control. It gets on a plane. The plane usually is, more temperature controlled because it's up in the sky. Then it just depends where it lands. If it's a heated area, if you're sending it priority, usually it's clearing and then going out for delivery, hopefully by the next morning. So it really just depends on the clearance process and which country it's going to. But in general, there isn't a temperature control on that.
What changes has there been in the OWA pricing in the last year or two?
Oh, well, in the last year, the change that occurred was a increase from, I think it was 35% to 65% on international shipping. It was practically a 30% increase in discounts for international shipping. We are every year working with our pricing team to increase the benefits of the program. The year previous, we had an increase to the ground discounts and air discounts. I think it was approximately 4 to 5% change. Correct me if I'm wrong. I can't remember off the top of my head. I don't have the paperwork from 2 years ago. But in this last year, it was a focus on international. And then in the upcoming year, every year we reevaluate it and look at what are the things that we can do to benefit all members of OWA. And Jana and Jessica have been excellent advocates for that on behalf of Oregon.
And we have one last question. Again, if anybody has anything else to add, there's a question box. Please be sure to add it so we can answer it for you. But Scott, Chris, how can people get a hold of you?
Oh, quite easily, actually. So my email address is scott.lombardo@fedex.com. My phone number is 503-307-6901. I am listed on the Oregon Wine Growers Association website as a partner, and my contact information is listed there. You can Google me. I show up not only on the Oregon Wine Growers site, but also on the Willamette Valley Wine Growers Association site as a point of contact with regard to the market and in regard to shipping.
And this is Chris. And for me, my email is C as in boy, E as in Edward, C as in Charlie, K, D as in dog, O-L-T @fedex.com. Mine's a little bit different. I spell it out so you know. And my phone number is 425-941-5131. And if you're always get a hold of Scott as well, and he can get a hold of me, or even OWA can get a hold of me as well, but that's my contact information.
And we would also like to mention that they will be at Symposium. So if you are planning to attend, and we hope that everybody is, be sure to stop by their booth. They are also sponsors, and we'll be speaking a little bit at right before our keynote presentation. Members do get 60% off their tickets for Symposium, so make sure to contact me, Jessica, at OWA to get that discount code. That's the end of the questions that we have for now. Again, if anybody else would like to reach out to us, please be sure to do so through our emails or phone numbers. Thank you, and have a great day.